I'm Mariana Cordier. Welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. A Status of Women report, which describes the situation of women elected to office in Maryland, was issued at the recent Women's Legislative Conference. Elaine Apter, the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Maryland, has the details. Just like the rest of the country, Montgomery County has a complicated history vis-a-vis African Americans that people can trace through Montgomery history and our local libraries. Fred Evans, a commentator for this show, has the story. February is both Black History Month and Heart Month, when people are encouraged to wear red to celebrate the progress that has been made against heart disease. Kelly Collins, from Every Mind, will comment. So, Elaine, thank you for coming to the show and telling us the status of women.
Right, it's great to be back. Well, a few weeks ago, the Montgomery County Commission for Women had their annual women's legislative briefing, and it brings about 700 women, some men also, I should say.
And is that every year that they have this?
Yes.
And when is that?
It's always the last Sunday in January. And it prepares for the Maryland legislative session that starts in January. And goes on. So here's where they actually have their priorities set. And in fact, at the very beginning of the meeting, there are presidents from the different organizations, and they talk about their priorities, and they're basically all the same. But the exciting part about this meeting was that the Montgomery County Commission for Women published their report every 10 years. They do a status of women. And so this just came out. And
so this is a big deal. We haven't seen this in 10 years.
In 10 years. And the title is A Tale of Two Counties. So you can probably understand what has happened. The county is changing, and we all know that, but now it's in black and white, and I'm sure it has been before. And there were certain areas that they really concentrated on and thought things have to be done. And one is women in poverty. And things have...
You mean there's poverty in Montgomery County?
You know, people really don't understand that, but, you know, here and there, yes, there is, and especially women, and especially the single-parent family that's headed by a woman. And some of the things that they're working on for that would be quickly minimum wage and time off for health and child care and things like that. The other thing is women in safety. That has become a problem, especially sexual assault. And the guest speaker was Monica Ramirez, who was fascinating because she was the one that brought the Hollywood women and the farm workers together, because even though they're far apart and everything else, that sexual assault and harassment was common to both of them.
And that's such a huge issue, because
really
we always keep thinking that we've conquered it or we've improved it, and yet it's still a massive issue.
As the father of three daughters, I had many, many discussions with them, and it's still, well, obviously I was a high school principal, and it's still a significant issue.
Right, and as you know, Fred, and the rest of us, that education is one of the big things.
Absolutely.
But what I thought really interesting was the other emphasis, and that was women in politics. And I have to put a plug in for the League of Women Voters, because we're 99 years old today.
Yay,
so
congratulations.
Happy birthday, League.
Great.
But it's interesting to look at. Maryland is doing fairly well. But if you look at it, we can always do better. We have a full contingent of women on the school board. However, the county council only has one woman. The county executive, we've never had a woman. We've never had a woman governor. And so some of the things that the Commission for Women were looking at was volunteer organizations to work on leadership. Bringing women up, not afraid to take a leadership role, to volunteer, to do things that will even make them grow and then grow in the leadership role. And the other thing is running for office. And I know when I started League, that was a biggie for us, is helping women run for office, because we talk women about the issues, but also campaign finance. Women are not always the wealthiest, as we know. We just heard about women in poverty. So learning how to get money to run for office is a biggie. Most women don't have a lot of money behind
So are
them.
they encouraging organizations to mentor women?
To mentor women within their organization, and also to actually do classes and workshops with women on running for office.
If a woman were interested to run for office, what are some of the things that they were recommending?
One of the things would be, of course, to know the issues. That's a biggie. To get out and work and know different organizations and make connections, so that they have support behind them, and see what the problems are around the county and how people can actually try and solve those problems or work with them. So interconnecting with different organizations is a biggie.
So
and just confidence.
Yeah, sure. So who are some of those groups? Are they, private industry? Are they schools, as you mentioned? Who's sort of stepping up to help with the mentoring and to support and grow these young?
Well, the League of Women Voters is one of them, and there are others. I know there are both Democratic and Republican women's groups that are working on mentoring.
And growing that.
The other thing I see that's maybe more informal is that those women who are in political, or who are in office, you got, for instance, locally, you got the mayor of Rockville, Bridget Newton.
Okay.
And
So we've run out of time a little bit. So the last word is, we do have women in politics, but we need more.
We need more,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
And I'll just say, when that doesn't become an issue, then we have solved the problem.
All right. So,
Right,
Fred,
stay
let's
tuned.
talk about the problems. Let's talk about Montgomery history. What is Montgomery history?
Well, Montgomery, I'm a member on the board of the Montgomery Historical Society, and that we are celebrating our 75th. I just joined. I'm learning all the history of that group. We just we're celebrating our 75th year of existence in Montgomery County. And a lot of folks who live here have moved here.
Yes.
I don't know how.
That's me.
Well, yeah,
And-
not a lot of local, true
Yeah,
blue
from-
locals are.
But that's what's interesting about you. We do have a core of people who have a long history of living here. Our office, the office of the Montgomery Historical Society, is located on West Montgomery Avenue, and what our major goal is to keep people informed about the history of Montgomery County. This county was formed, I think this is correct, in 1776, interestingly enough. And we have changed, we have evolved. As the intro said, we were Maryland was a southern state, so we had our experience, I don't want to say experiences, our tragedy of slavery in this state, and then what we did to try to change that, and what we're continuing to do to try to change that history of that history,
right.
so to speak.
In Montgomery County, I know, just living here, the last 20 years has changed so drastically. I remember when I went to high school, I was the only Latino kid, and there wasn't much diversity. And now you have schools that have so many languages.
Yeah. The stat I share, maybe I've shared it on this show before, is when I moved here in 1970 and started teaching, we had 100,000 students in the system. We were 91, makeup was about 91% Caucasian, about 6% African American, very small numbers of Hispanic and Asian. When I retired, quote unquote, in 2000 from Gaithersburg High School, that was the last majority graduating class from the Montgomery County Public Schools.
So yeah,
school-wide.
It's a big change.
And
I remember you said you had like 80 languages?
80 countries.
80 countries.
80 representatives, student representatives of 80 countries, is that the way to say it?
Yeah.
And 40 different languages that we counted. Our international night was incredible. when we would bring all the people together, have performances, food, and all that good kind of stuff. Anyway.
So Montgomery History does incorporate the kids and students in their program.
That's right. We have a History Day event. I've been a judge for that for years, where students write, they do videos, they do exhibits of various historical times in our country, but also locally in Montgomery County, and that will be on March 2nd, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe that's accurate.
What's interesting is right next to Leisure World, there was a whole farm owned by an African American free.
Yep.
And there's an Edmonton Society now that is trying to trace that whole history of that area and that land.
It's so important that I was a history major, and there were the things that I didn't learn have upset me about our American history. Not to point fingers, but
so it's so great that you have this location where you can have all this documented and people can come and experience different things. So if I were to come visit you on Beale Street, what would I?
Yeah, it's actually the Beale House. It's on West Montgomery Avenue. We have the website montgomeryhistory.org that people can look and come and visit. There are artifacts there. There's a library there.
Great.
It's very good. It's very rich.
So people can come and do research
and
see pictures.
It's probably because I know, like me, I think of Maryland almost as a northern city. And it shocks me to go north to Baltimore from Washington, D.C. But, most of us don't realize how southern Maryland was in Montgomery County, and it's really an eye-opener. So I think a visit to the museum would be really...
It's and then the libraries, to mention that, the libraries, I was over at the Rockville Library the other day, and there are always exhibits in that long hallway there. Of the most recent was February because of African American History Month. So there's a lot to see and a lot to understand, and people. I know you mentioned the 23andMe.
23andMe. Very interested in their
I've done that. I've done that, and it's very, very interesting to learn about where your ancestors were from or may have been from.
Right, I have done that too.
Some of those circumstances.
Well, that is always history I find fascinating, and now with the component of DNA. Wow. I don't know if I want to know about the health aspect, because we'll talk about heart disease later, but I'm not sure about that. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have to take a break, and we'll be right back.
And Tommy can't dance, so we're gonna put some ants in their pants. Aww, and walk like a monkey, hop like a bunny. Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. They got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants.
One more time.
Jimmy can't sing, and Tommy can't dance, so we're gonna put some ants in their pants. Aww.
Kids will spend 22 minutes watching us, the super duper party troopers, sing about ants in their pants.
Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
Welcome to my block party. Glad you can make it.
The only triple doubles you get come with fries.
Last time you blocked someone, you were online.
I can do this all day. Your moves are just gay.
Using gay to mean dumb or stupid, not cool.
Not cool.
Not in my house, not anywhere. It's not creative, it's offensive to gay people. And you're better than that.
Packers,
Vikings,
Red State, Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
But when we live united, we create real lasting change in the education, income, and health of our country. Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Sign up at liveunited.org.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many.
But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
And we're back. Kelly Collins from Every Mind, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. February is such an exciting month. We celebrate many things, and we're all well represented in our red.
I admire your choice of colors.
It's so
I'm glad
apropos.
we all got the memo.
It's very appropriate.
I want to point out my tie is red.
It is a shade of red. We will give you credit for that, for sure. But one of the things we celebrate during the month of February is the raising awareness around heart health and what we can do to improve our heart health. And Black History Month, as you all mentioned. Earlier in the month, Every Mind, and I'm the Director of Human Resources there, participated in a day of service, the Martin Luther King Day of Service, and it was held.
That's a fantastic day.
It's a great event. The Montgomery Volunteer Center is an amazing group that puts this together, and over 2,000 people come to volunteer their time to participate in projects that benefit various groups in Montgomery County.
You know, as important as that day is, I would imagine that volunteering generally and more often and throughout the year is important for organizations such as yours.
Absolutely. So that definitely there's that connection. So when I say human resources, we have about 100 employees and about 500 volunteers. So the impact that that group has on our community is pretty powerful, as you can imagine. But the benefits to the individual are pretty amazing as well. So volunteerism actually does improve your mental health. It does have a positive impact on your physical health. So volunteerism is a really great thing.
There is, I'm not
yeah.
mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
That's scientific evidence, right?
There's actual studies that have shown the positive impact of volunteerism. I mean, you can, as you think about the volunteer jobs that are out there, they're numerous, you know, depending on what you want to do.
As part of it is that you're getting out of the house, especially for perhaps older citizens who are retired and really, you know, maybe their families are distracted doing other things and they're at loose ends, you know, to have a positive experience, getting out there, meeting people,
you're
helping.
Connecting, right? You're connecting with people. You're doing something with a purpose. It can really alleviate, you know, isolation and depression and stress even, and it's all ages. So kids do it. And older adults can do it.
It's also a growth opportunity. It's a learning opportunity, and there are so many ways you can volunteer. You just don't have to have one talent. And,
absolutely.
And time-wise, you know, you can end up in a leadership role and devoting a lot of time, but then an hour or two a month or a week, and especially for new retirees that really have been busy and don't know what they're to do with themselves.
Sure, and so that when you brought that up about, you know, young women especially that want to go into, you know, have political aspirations, volunteerism can really expose you to so many things. It can allow you to develop skills. It can allow you to connect with a mentor, as you mentioned. So there are a lot of really great, valuable things for young professionals when they want to explore, you know, various things and so grow their skill set.
For Every Mind, right? What kind of volunteers are you looking for?
So like I said, there's a huge number of volunteers, and so you can do things from being a one-time volunteer. We did an event, or we had some volunteers help with our point-in-time homeless count that we did a few weeks ago, and we had 43 people volunteer for that. That was a one-time thing. But then we have people that work on our hotline, which is an amazing gift of talent.
What is that?
So I know you're familiar, and the hotline is really an opportunity to answer calls and texts and chats for people that just need someone to talk to. So, you know, you can be in a crisis situation, or you can just be, you know, having a bad day and you want to talk to someone on the hotline. So that is a tremendous commitment. It involves about 56 hours of training. But the reward of having an impact on someone else's life is just amazing. And we have people that have been there for years doing that work with us on a volunteer basis.
It also expands your world. As we said, mentally sometimes Montgomery County is this rich county. And when you get out and volunteer, you really see, you know,
You're
how the other
exposed.
half are people in need, and it makes you feel so good that you're helping out.
It does.
It's
It
the
does.
hotline 24/7.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. And we're very fortunate to have the support of our community to be able to run that, because we wouldn't be able to do it
They're all
otherwise.
volunteers who were
We have paid staff, but a majority of the people there are volunteering their time, and interns too. So we were talking about young professionals. You know,
Right.
they can
Yeah.
come and do an internship, and it gives them invaluable skills to
Did
be
they
able
just
to
call
progress.
your office or
So
the
the
website?
every-mind.org website has a list of all the volunteer opportunities, and they're numerous. You know, like I said, it depends on what your interest is. We can match you up. And then the Montgomery Volunteer Center, and you can Google that, has a great list of opportunities in the county, and they really are great. And you're going to help, like you said, the community, but it's also a tremendous benefit to your own.
Yeah, it's a benefit for
health.
yourself and for others.
Yeah.
Well, so thank you so much for
Sure.
talking about that. And for the audience, we're short, I guess, so we're going to talk about cardiovascular disease. It's Heart Month, right? And so, and red is the color that we wear, you know, to recognize the importance of heart health. And one of the things we like to talk about are the basics, right? That's having a good diet, you know. And so it's interesting when you look into diets, there are all kinds of diets, right? And there's some diets that are not healthy cardiovascular diets because they have too much salt, too much cholesterol. And what I find fascinating when I started learning about this, because my mom developed cardiovascular disease, and she was a woman who was healthy, exercised. She sort of kind of watched her diet, but she had no idea she had cardiovascular disease. It was a complete surprise. So I don't know if you guys have any experience with it, but you know, when I looked at the diet that she needed to be on, it was very interesting for me to find out what it is that she should and should not eat, and I started trying to adopt some of that. But have you guys tried?
No, but one of the things that I was curious about is that they say for women, a heart attack has different symptoms.
Yes.
And, you know, we always think of pain in
In
the
the
heart,
arm,
in
right.
the arm, down the
That's
arm.
interesting.
Or in the chest?
What
Yeah.
are some?
So what happens with women is sometimes the symptoms of what you think is acid reflux or heartburn, sometimes some headaches.
Right.
The symptoms are so incredibly different. So it's really helpful to, I think, when you hit your 50s, to start talking about and thinking about, you know, proactively what are the different diseases that could apply.
Right.
Just because it's not in your family history doesn't mean you can't develop it, particularly because, you know, who knows what you did or didn't do or abuse in your earlier years. I am a great abuser of eating too much cheese.
Right.
And that has a whole lot of cholesterol. I never realized how bad cheese was actually for you. And so then when you want to cut back, when you've already had the heart attack or you're already in the midst of all that, although helpful, it's sometimes too late. And in my mother's case, it was too late. So,
well, the American Heart Association during this month has some really great resources, and Wearing Red is a big promotion of that. But their website has, you know, healthy recipes, and you know, and I work in human resources, and I see the rising costs in health care and insurance premiums. And we really do have to take responsibility for our own health, and prevention is a huge piece of that. And as you mentioned, you know, I think it's never too late or to really focus on this, and really to look at some of these prevention things that you can do.
And to remember, if you're diabetic, you know, one of the side effects of diabetes is heart disease. And so you may not think you have it, and if you're diabetic, you really need to control your sugar levels, and you have to exercise.
Right, and one of the problems is with this women in poverty is so many of the cheaper foods are your sweet foods and your unhealthy foods, and the money isn't there to buy the fresh fruits and vegetables. And
it's an effort. It's an effort to do the easy shopping is to buy the pre-made, already packaged, nuke it.
Throw it in the microwave.
Right. And when you check the sodium levels on those things, you're just like, oh dear, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. And, you know, what always amazed me was how little sodium can have such a big effect.
Sure,
you know.
sure.
And so, and exercise is super important. You know, as we get older, we don't want to do it, or we're tired, or we ache, or
that's one of the things I wanted to push is exercise, and also getting medical checkups. And once again, do we have the health insurance to do that? And it affects those who don't have that ability, but it's helped me. I won't get into detail, but it's helped me over the years to make sure that I'm keeping a running score, so to speak, of my cholesterol, my blood pressure, and all those other things, and make adjustments if any of those things.
Absolutely.
And one thing we can all do, let's not forget about stress levels, because stress has a tremendous impact on our heart health.
No question.
And coming from an organization that promotes mental wellness, we all need to make sure that we're monitoring our stress levels and doing what we need to do to alleviate those stressors and manage that. So we need to pay attention to that as well.
Well, and you know what I found was the most fascinating factor for helping with heart disease was you must have 8 hours of sleep.
Yes.
What a
Because if
concept.
you slept and you are rested, your body will be better. And
That
so
is true.
with that, I really would like to thank all of you for being here on the show with me and joining me this week. And thank you, the audience, for joining us. This edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I am Mariana Cordier. Please join us next week at the same time.